Dirty Birds, what's up? And welcome to another edition of Falcons Final Whistle presented by Zaxby's. I'm your host, Will McFadden. I'm joined by Terrin Waack and Amna Subhan. Ladies, how are we doing today?
We're doing well.
Yeah? Amna, how you doing?
Spirits are high.
All right, spirits are high, and why shouldn't they be? The Falcons are back at home this weekend, taking on the Dallas Cowboys. They are 5-3, and honestly, I just want to bask in that for a second, because it's been a minute.
Away.
It's been it's so cool to see this team go out, score points, 3 games with 30-plus points in the last 4. This is Falcons football. This is the stuff that I think gets fans excited here. And so, again, we really appreciate you guys following along with us this season. It's going to be a lot of fun the rest of the way. But before we dig into this particular matchup, this morning, Friday morning, up on the site, you can find a really great, extensive deep dive on not only Atlanta's special teams, but really the dynamic kickoff rule and how it's changed the NFL landscape. Terrin, you want to talk a little bit about this piece that you wrote?
I feel like I've been y'all's special teams queen on this podcast this season, and there's a reason for it.
Yeah. On Halloween, the special teams queen. Look at that.
I should have worn I don't know what.
We should have gotten you a crown.
A field goal post.
We should have.
That's what you should have been.
That would have been a walking hazard. I would have been running into things left and right. But I'm really excited about this. This is something where the rule was announced, and I was like, let's get weird, because it's so different. It looks so different. It's playing out very differently. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the people who got well ahead of their skis, where it was like, all right, this is going to change everything. Things are about to get, as I said, weird and wild, and let's get crazy on special teams. And I got reality checked real hard by special teams coordinator Marquise Williams here, because he's like, it's still too early to do that. We're still figuring it out. And so today's story is really a temperature check on where the league as a whole is when it comes to this new rule. And one of the things that stood out to me most when talking to Rich McKay, who's the co-chairman of the competition committee and then in-house here with the Falcons as their CEO, is that something they circled was the difference between return yards over a decade. In 2013 and compared to 2023, it was 16,587 return yards lost, the difference between the two years.
Wow, that's crazy. There was
that's a lot.
Yeah, that fewer returns in just a decade's time.
Right, that's 1,500 a season, essentially, going downward.
Yeah.
I know the math isn't that simple, but regardless, from year to year, that is the difference between the two season totals. And then from 2003 to 2023, it's 33,065 return yards. So that's a 55 and a 71% decrease, respectively, between a decade and 2 decades. And that's crazy. I mean,
that just shows you, I think, why there was kind of a sense of urgency to bring that element of the game back, right?
Yeah.
And Amna, have you noticed, more kickoffs this year? We've been at every game. We've watched a lot of football this year. It feels like the kickoff is back in play a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. And it feels like it's back in play, but it's also just a little stagnant at the same time. So it's waiting for that next step. And we're still early in this, like you said. And I'm just curious, what are those next steps going to be to make this as dynamic as they want it?
It does, yeah. It feels like a lot of guys kind of running to about the 25 or the 30 and then getting tackled.
Right.
Yeah.
And the touchback has really changed things. But the thing I found probably most interesting is the fact that punts are so down.
Wow.
Bradley Pinion in this building is only averaging 2.5 punts per game. He's only had 20 punts this season, whereas last year he had 36 by this point.
Wow.
That's wild.
And so year over year in his career, they've just kind
punts.
of gone down. And he's like, I mean, I'm not going to ruin the great quote in the story, but he's like,
go read it.
I'm still going to do my job. He thinks it's a good thing because the points are up. And that's what allegedly fans want.
Allegedly.
I don't know. I haven't spoken to 1,000 fans.
Yeah, no, I think...
You don't want to speak on their behalf.
I think a little 5-3 game is kind of fun.
I think...
Just kidding.
Do you? Okay, Alabama grad over here. LSU, Alabama. Look at that. I totally agree. I think that the points have been a lot of fun. Again, we started off the show talking about the Falcons scoring 30-plus points in 3 of their last 4 games. It has added a little bit of an element to the kicking game, specifically with field goals. And that's been such a cool wrinkle that I didn't really see coming. I don't know how many people, when we were talking about this change before the season started, predicted that field goals would go way up and punts would go way down. But Terrin's story does an incredible job covering all of it. It is honestly so thorough. Please go check it out if you've got some time.
Great work.
Great work on that, Terrin. But let's get to some action for Sunday. as my iPad totally just freaks out on me, which is why we have a paper copy, ladies and gentlemen. So before we kind of dissect the Cowboys-Dallas matchup, I do want to start with a Falcon-centric look, and specifically a little bit of a compliment sandwich. We are through 8 games, which gives us a nice sample size to really look at. And so, Amna, we'll start with you. What's one thing you think the Falcons have done really well over the first 8 weeks?
Well, I think you can't help but look at the offense, and then you can't help but look at Kirk Cousins, and that's who I'm starting with the bun of the compliment sandwich.
Yeah, sesame bun? Is that what we're going with?
No, we're
today?
going with brioche.
Oh, brioche.
If it's a positive...
I was going to say Asiago, but that's a bagel.
God, you guys are way better at breads than I am.
Oh, brioche bun. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Hawaiian.
yes, Kirk Cousins is the brioche bun. Like, he's really stepped it up from, like, coming off that injury. And, like, we're in Week 9. He wasn't playing Week 9 last year. So the fact that he's, like, playing as well as he is, just got NFC Offensive Player of the Week for the second time, for the second time this month. For the second time against the Bucks, coming off the Bucks.
Kirktober, baby.
Kirktober. It's so fun. But, like, beyond that, like, there's that leadership and that, like, that he's providing to the locker room. And then this, like, dynamic he's creating with the fans and the way that he's embracing Atlanta culture. And I asked him about it yesterday. I'm like, is this something that you're, like, intentionally doing to, like, learn about it? Or are you just, like, is it just all natural? And he's like, if I was really trying, I think I'd look pretty silly and that I'm trying too hard. So he's poking fun at himself, and that's been like something for me that like I didn't see coming with like the way that he's like become this Atlanta man type thing. I feel like that's been such a fun unforeseen storyline, and when he signed here I didn't see that coming, so he's definitely been the positive for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's everything that the Falcons could have hoped for and expected, and then some with Kirk so far. I mean, he was playing at such a high level last year, but to see him really pick it back up, and like you said, he is now a full year kind of removed from that injury, and that's historically been the timeline for something like that. So maybe his best days are still ahead of him, which is crazy to say, again, coming off of 2 NFC Player of the Week performances in the span of one single month, right? So Kirk Cousins, 8 touchdowns against the Buccaneers, more by any quarterback in NFL history against one team in a single month. Dude's balling right now. So that's a great brioche bun to start off with. I'm going to go with, maybe like a little frozen meat patty in the middle.
Like a really dry chicken breast.
Yeah, it's tough. But
Don't make me
that
nauseous
is
before breakfast.
that is, of course, the Falcons pass rush. And a lot of questions in the mailbag the last few weeks about it. Understandably so, right? Falcons are last in the league in sacks. They are last in the league in pressure rate. Not last in the league in overall pressures. They've had more pass rush snaps than some of the other teams. They're like third to last in pressures. But by and large, when you're down that far in some of these rankings, it's going to be a clear area to address. And the Falcons have been looking at that for the last few weeks. I do like what the coaching staff has been saying. I do think there is some accountability on these players. You can't kind of get outside of yourself too much to generate pressure. You really do have to rely on Arnold Ebiketie to win some matchups, Matthew Judon to win some matchups, Grady Jarrett in the middle to win some matchups, but to also do it together. One thing you heard Raheem Morris say on Monday was kind of getting the pass rush to rush as one, and that is when you kind of look at some of the quarterbacks being able to escape the pocket and step up and out and do things like that. I think the Falcons could use a little bit more of synchronicity in their pass rush and everybody kind of staying in their lane and not allowing the leak out by the quarterback. This week, Dak Prescott used to be a little more mobile than he is now, so maybe it'll be a chance to, get right in that area. But unless Adrian Claiborne is walking through the door and he's going to have another 6-sack performance like he did a few years ago for Atlanta, we'll see what happens with the pass rush again on Sunday. But let's quickly go back to another positive to wrap things up. Terrin, what you got?
I had offense written down, but I feel like the other half of the bun has to be defense because they need to not just get the sad middle patty, apparently.
I didn't say a sad middle patty. I said a frozen middle patty. They're looking to thaw it out,
Ew. As a non-meat eater, I don't enjoy this analogy.
All right, impossible burger for you, Terrin.
Let's not ruin that for me, too. But, gosh, let's go with Jesse Bates. I mean, it's crazy how he just, shows up in clutch moments. I mean, 2 turnovers in the last game alone. I feel like he's averaging a turnover per game. I haven't even looked that up, but it just feels like that.
Yeah.
And so he's going to be my positive bottom bun, because otherwise I had Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, not to mention Kyle Pitts, Ray McLeod. Like, the reason Kirk is able to do what he's doing is because he has all these options. And again, I've been so deep in special teams lately. The only story I've written not about special teams this week is about Darnell Mooney and Drake London, and how they're the reason the Falcons are the only team in the NFL right now with 2 wide receivers with at least 500 yards receiving. I think the Houston Texans were next, but Stephon Diggs is out for the season, so his number will not change. And
He
then
was,
after that,
5 yards shy?
I think 8.
Okay, but that's crazy.
But
Houston, like when we look at Houston and we've got Tank Dell and Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, I mean, coming into the season, they were looked at as like this super talent-rich offense, and to have the Falcons not only be in the same category as them, or same conversation as them, but like leading in that category is awesome.
Yeah, and then the next one is the Ravens, and their person who doesn't fit the
Rashad
bill
Bateman.
is out by like 88 yards, because
Yeah.
I think he's like at 422, if I remember correctly.
But he's kind of their big play threat, so it's less volume, and that's what's been so surprising about Darnell Mooney is he's sustained volume and big play
He's
ability.
been so fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because I do think he's fitting in here a lot more than he did in Chicago, and it's like, what is it? He's in his 6th year, something like that.
Yeah. One of them was kind of lost by injury.
Yeah, but to see him like finding another gear and like maybe even finding the joy for the game again here with the Falcons, it's just fun to see. Like, it's kind of like a second chance, and he's really making the most of the opportunity, whereas Drake London's been here since he's joined the NFL. So it's a different dynamic, and they're also so different in stature and play. But I think the best analogy that Drake used in the locker room yesterday, a.k.a. Wednesday, because I know we're recording on Thursday, and I want to make sure everyone is aware of the timeline, was that they're riding a tandem bike.
Yeah.
I want social to kind of make a graphic with that somehow, some way. But yeah, those two are riding a tandem bike. I mean, they're so close in numbers. Drake has 525 yards receiving. Mooney has 500. And it's just like they're both pedaling the Falcons offense to success.
I'm just picturing one of those like ESPN Monday Night Football like
Oh,
animated
yeah,
things
sure.
where
Across
it's
the
just those two
screen.
guys like on a bike like pedaling
Yeah.
up a hill, and they're pedaling past Baltimore and they're pedaling past Houston.
Okay.
Like,
We need
why
to
am I
get-
providing content for you guys, ESPN?
We need to get that for that Monday night game.
Exactly.
Taryn, shoot them an email.
No, thank you.
Send them your story.
Yeah, I think that's a great selection. Jesse has been huge. Kirk has been huge.
The double bun.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What did you say? He's my beautiful bottom bun? Is that what you said earlier?
I didn't say beautiful.
Okay.
I don't think
I want to make a T-shirt where it's
said
just like,
Just the alliteration of the
healthy?
three
I don't
Bs.
know.
yeah,
I can't
it's
remember.
just you and Jesse, just like he's my
Good
bottom bun.
I don't know what I said. But you found it funnier than I did.
I did. It was great. But it's awesome to see kind of where we've come with those two, thinking back to the training camp stories about them watching film together and kind of what their leadership would mean for both sides of the ball. I think that Bucs game was such a clear example of how impactful leaders are for a football team.
Yeah.
I mean, when Jesse came out and forced that fumble on the first drive, it was like, he's not going to let this team start flat.
Yep.
He is going to take it upon himself to get the juice going, and then Kirk turned right around and hit a touchdown on that next possession. Like, that is complimentary football, and it started with the two biggest leaders, I think, in this building. So
I know, but I wish the other turnovers had done something similar, because that's the issue. And I think back to Raheem Morris being like, okay, so we started fast, then what?
yeah.
They didn't continue exactly fast. I mean, they did well. Obviously, they won. But, like, I think of the other two turnovers and how they didn't result in points.
Yeah, and there were some missed opportunities
Yeah.
there to continue to clean up, right?
Yeah.
But that's why
Yeah.
there's 9 more games left. So
But
let's
now
go
I'm
ahead
sounding
and
like Raheem with the start fast. Like, it's not enough.
you got to start fast and finish strong, right?
Right.
It's everything. And then Tori would talk about the middle 8.
Yeah.
So you gotta do it all, apparently.
Yeah.
You just play good for 60
We're
minutes.
selfish.
That's my theory. Today's episode of Falcons Final Whistle is brought to you by Zaxby's. And after a long game, when I'm tired and I need to refuel, I turn to Zaxby's. Their marinated, hand-breaded, fried to perfection chicken fingers, they hit the spot every time. Get yours with seasoned crinkle fries, a nice drink, and whichever of their 12 signature sauces you're feeling at the moment. but it always hits just right. So next time you need to refuel, go get yourself some Zaxby's. Let's go ahead and pivot, though, to Dallas. Dallas has been dealing with some key injuries throughout the season. Micah Parsons has missed the last 4 games. It sounds like he will miss at least a few more. Cornerback Deron Bland, who was an All-Pro last year, had 9 interceptions and 5 pick sixes. I kind of feel like I memory hold that last year. Not that I was like tuning into a ton of Cowboys games, but that's crazy. 5 pick sixes, but he has not played this season. He was activated to the active roster this week after his 21-day window was going to close, I believe, on Wednesday. So we'll see where everything stands with him. Maybe he'll play Sunday, maybe he won't. But DeMarcus Lawrence, the defensive end for Dallas, is out on IR for at least one more game. Brandon Cooks is out as well, the wide receiver. And then they have a couple more defensive linemen who might be out also. So that's a lot of guys, specifically on the defense for Dallas. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, I guess.
I feel like CeeDee's been off and on too, though.
Yeah. I mean, well, he was on last week in Sunday Night Football. So I think he's looking pretty good to go for this matchup. But defensively, I mean, this is a big opportunity, Amna, for the Falcons offense to keep rolling. What are you looking at in that specific matchup, Atlanta's offense against Dallas' defense?
Run it.
Yeah?
Let Bijan and Tyler cook. Let them go because they're really into anime Super Saiyan mode, if that's correct.
I think it's Super Saiyan mode.
Okay, see, that's the thing. I was like, I watched Dragon Ball Z as a kid, but do I know anything else about anime? No. But let them go crazy. I think that this is a huge opportunity for both of them. Like 31st. The Cowboys are in rushing per game, allowing those rushing yards. And then last week against the 49ers had their second most rushing output, and Brock Purdy rushed for 56 yards. That was one shy of his career high. So I'm not saying Kirk needs to go out and have a career high in rushing, but I think that's a huge opportunity for them.
What do you think Raheem would do in the post-game press conference if Kirk went out and ran for 60 yards in this game?
60,
weights around Kirk's
I
ankles.
don't know his career high, but I know 60 is more than that.
It would be stunning. I mean, of course, Kirk had the big scramble last weekend, but that's kind of more than I expected to see from him on the ground. Brock Purdy's been weirdly feisty this year as kind of a runner.
Feisty?
Yeah, he's almost like an old version of Aaron Rodgers, like back in the day, where he's just kind of like not a true scrambler, but if you leave him space, he's going to pick up a lot of yardage. So I think that the run game is going to be big for Atlanta in this one. Tyler Algier, I'm kind of in the back of my mind thinking about him getting back on track after a couple of quiet weeks. Terrin, what are you seeing from Atlanta's offense against Dallas's defense?
I had the run game also.
That's
we need
fine.
to
Let's keep
collaborate
talking
before
about
this. But
we can have the same thing.
I know.
We can share. If Barney taught me anything.
We can agree. We can be friends.
I think the reason I want to see more out of the run game specifically is because if you look at the Seahawks standings, they're very similar to that of the Cowboys.
That's a great point.
And so we went into that game being like, run. There's no reason you can't. The defense isn't doing well against the run. Run it down their throats. And yes, the Falcons had what? I think I wrote it down. Maybe not. Oh, well. I think the second most rushing yards of their season against the Seahawks, but they still weren't able to come out with the win. So it's how can you capitalize on a weakness and turn it into your benefit a bit more?
Yeah.
You did it, but ultimately you still fell short. So it's I want to see them run it down their throats. I don't know. There's no reason not to, and use it to win the game, not just put a number up in the stat book. Because as Raheem Morris loves to say, and it pains me every time he says it, stats are for losers.
There was a question in the mailbag that went up on Thursday, basically saying, contrary to what, Coach Morris believes, I like stats, and here are some good ones. And I was like, I like stats too. We can just be losers together. So, I know how coaches feel about stats, but luckily we're not coaches.
I told him I took it personally, and every time he says it, he's hurting me.
Yeah.
Yeah, stats can stay, at least on Falcons Final Whistle. I think getting the run game going will be important early, because if there's one thing I think Atlanta's offense is still looking to find, it is setting the pace for the game and the tempo and really imposing. And
then finishing that out.
Exactly. And that's where, when you look at Seattle, them building that big second half lead really took Atlanta out of what they wanted to do, I think, on the ground, and staying true to that. And when you look at Dallas offensively, good pass game, not a great run game at all. So if you're Atlanta, can you kind of figure out that 1-2 combo of running the ball, then maybe hitting some of these play action passes to Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, a couple of explosive plays against Tampa Bay. That is where if you can get a double-digit lead on them at halftime in the third quarter, I really think you're going to put Dallas a little bit behind the eight ball, but maybe you're also playing right into their offensive strength because we saw in that fourth quarter just how dangerous Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb can be. So, Amna, when you're looking at Dallas's offense, is that really where you start?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I don't know if we're moving on, but like you have a question that who should have a good game. I wrote down A.J. Terrell. Like, I feel like,
there you go.
Yeah, if you can take CeeDee Lamb out of it, if you can take that dynamic of Dak and CeeDee and nullify it, like, you are in good shape because, like you said, their run game, they're not producing a lot out of that. And so they're relying a lot on CeeDee. I think he is third in receiving yards in the NFL, tied for fourth in touchdowns. Like, that's a big part of the offense. And I think AJ, he's had not even quietly a good season because he's had some interceptions, and this is something he's been like itching to get to, but like he's quietly one of those underrated premier corners, and for him to have a good game against CeeDee, that would just add to that.
Yeah, that play that he made against Tampa to get the interception was something I haven't really seen from AJ before. And one thing I've been monitoring from Next Gen Stats all season long is that the Falcons are playing off coverage and zone coverage at kind of like a higher rate than they have throughout AJ Terrell's tenure here. And so I think he's in a little bit of a new role. He's traveling around with a lot of the number ones, which is great to see. Like, I think they're putting a lot of faith in him to say, you're our shutdown corner. Go out there and cover Mike Evans. Go out there and cover CeeDee Lamb. Go out there and cover all of these big 1A wide receivers. And so far, yeah, as a corner, you're going to lose some matchups, but he's also made some big plays. And so I think AJ is a great selection here. Terrin, what are you looking at?
I realized I botched up my stats because I was looking at the...
Hate when that happens. That's why stats are for losers, because Raheem probably botched one too many stats. He was like, you know what, we're getting out of this.
He was always right. But it's better to correct it now than realize it later.
I was like, ooh, my face is turning red on camera because I know I messed up. But Dallas's defense is also not so hot in the passing game. So I mixed up the offense and defense when it comes to like skewness. It's the offense that can't really run the ball, but it can pass the ball. But it's the defense that can't really defend either.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Where I said before it was kind of like skewed like Seattle, but that was the offense.
The offense
not
can do
the defense.
One thing well.
Yeah.
The defense can, at least so far, has not done many things well.
Yeah, and the offense was similar to that of
Seattle.
My
Yes. Where their passing game is really at the forefront of what they want to do.
But then I just re-looked up Seattle to see how wrong I was. And it's okay because they're not so good in the run defense either. So, whew.
They're not too dissimilar.
Yeah.
In fact,
no,
this game...
that was a good point. I was
yeah.
looking at it, and a lot of things were matching up with the way that Seattle, just in terms of even like Geno Smith was high up on like sacks taken in the season, and that looked like an opportunity for them to get after the pass rush, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, and so that's where my key, not player, but I'm going to go unit needs to step up, is the defense, because I am also really tired of seeing tweets about the pass rush.
Yes.
It's a scary place.
2 sacks in the first quarter would be like the best gift in the world, I think, for
they didn't
everybody.
Have any last week.
Yeah.
They've had 3 games in which they've had no sacks, and then they haven't had a multi-sack game since week 1, which they lost.
Yeah.
So I think... I'm like, I don't want to be one of the keyboard warriors over here, but the pass rush is like, I need to see a sack.
Good teams.
I need to see the quarterback hit the ground.
Yeah.
Run it down their throats and smash the quarterback's face in the grass.
That's amazing, Terrin, just coming out for
I'm getting aggressive.
Day. Yeah.
Before 9 a.m. No, it's almost 10 a.m. I don't know.
Your face is turning red. You want the quarterback's face to turn red, too.
My stats were messed up. I'm hurting, and...
Not as badly as the quarterback's going to be hurting on Sunday. So I want to real quick, though, the Seattle game is a good way, I think, to think about this one, because that was an opportunity for Atlanta a couple weeks ago to, outside of the division, make a statement against another NFC team of kind of equal caliber. That's Dallas. Like, Dallas is also right in the mix in the NFC East. I know they've lost their last 2. They had a bye week there in the middle, so they're kind of licking their wounds a little bit. But so was Seattle coming into Mercedes-Benz Stadium. This is another opportunity for Atlanta at home to kind of make a statement outside of their division against an NFC team who we figure to be in the mix kind of at the end of the year. So they can't be overlooking this one. They can't be thinking about, New Orleans or anything like that. Focus is on Dallas, and honestly, based on kind of what we've seen, conversations we've had, I believe they're locked in, and this is going to be a really fun one on Sunday. So quickly, let's kind of close this thing up with our final couple of topics closest to the pin. Amna won our very first closest to the pin.
Stats are for losers.
I'm waiting for my golf clubs.
Yeah, you keep waiting. Let's, though, go for round 2. Amna, we'll start with you since you were the winner. Make it take it. Tyler Algier rushing yards. How many do you think he will have?
Okay, I'm going with 55.
Okay.
Against Carolina, he had his most with 105. Carolina, I think, gives up the most rushing yards in the NFL, and then Dallas is 6. So another opportunity for him there. I don't know that he gets 100. Maybe Terrin would run the ball down their throat. Maybe he does. But I think there's an opportunity for some angry runs from Tyler in this one.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, 55, it's not a bad mark at all. Terrin, you have Jesse Bates tackles, and for the purposes of this game, because I'm well aware you could be just 1 tackle off, right? And that's different than 10 yards off. So 1 tackle equals 10 yards for the purposes of this game.
Boo with the caveat.
We got to make it fair somehow.
No, we don't. I have 9 tackles. Because he's averaging 6.25 per game. His season high is 12, which was in the win against the Eagles. And so I just found a happy medium between the two, and I don't know that I want to give him a double digit.
Okay.
So, yeah, 9.
Not your beautiful bottom bun? You don't want to give him a double digit?
I don't. I really regret saying that if I did say it that way.
I don't even think that you did say that, but I am saying it now, and that's hilarious.
And it's making me uncozy.
Okay, so you had 9 tackles. I've got Drake London receiving yards, and I'm going to say 83.
But no, because they need to run it down their throat.
Hey, I think they could. Those could come off of 2 receptions. Let's say 83 yards on 2 receptions.
240
the receptions
yards.
are not part of this at all, but they can still run it down the throats
I know.
and get 83 receiving yards for Drake London. So we had 55 rushing yards for Tyler Algier, 9 tackles for Jesse Bates, and 83 receiving yards for Drake London. Ladies, let's wrap this up with one thing the Falcons need to do to win on Sunday. Terrin, we'll start with you.
I said keep that reset mindset they had last week because after they went 3-0 in the division, they lost to the Seahawks because it's kind of like, yes, the division games matter the most because that's what gets you a chance in the postseason, but you can't keep falling off. And so they're coming off this really important win over the Buccaneers. Don't fall off again. You got to go 1-0 each week, not 0-1.
Totally agree. Amna.
Win the turnover margin.
Nice.
It's as simple as that. When we look back at Seattle, those turnovers really hurt them. So, and then each game, I don't have the stat in front of me, but like it feels like every time Jesse Bates has a big interception, a big play, it ends up well for them.
Yeah, I think winning the turnover margin is going to be huge in this one, and mine is going to be in the red zone. Dallas has the worst red zone defense in the NFL. The Falcons have been pretty good in that area recently. Keep going.
Ooh.
Score when you get down there. Score touchdowns. Come away with touchdowns, not field goals.
Ooh, I have another one.
Yeah.
I saw that their third down offense is pretty good, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be really good to stop letting drives go so long.
I agree.
So
shorter drives.
Yeah, that's all I got. That was all my.
That
added.
is a key to win.
That was just my added thought.
All right.
No, you're right.
No, that is, it's going to be huge. I think getting off the field on third down. Weirdly enough, these are 2 of the worst teams in time of possession. They possess the ball, the least amount of time. So I'm really curious to see
It's hot potato out there.
how that breaks. Yeah, like
who's
who's going to end up just possessing this ball throughout the game. And I hope it's Atlanta. I know that is they are well equipped, I think, against this defense because they are balanced on offense to really dictate this game. So let's go see them out. Let's go see them do that out there. But that will do it for today's Falcons Final Whistle. Thank you guys so much for listening. Happy Halloween. I know it'll be Friday by the time you guys get it, but it's Thursday, as we're doing this. So hope everybody had a great time last night, stayed safe, got some candy. But please like, subscribe, rate, review if you enjoy this show. Share it with your friends. Check us out on YouTube. Check out all of the great, amazing Atlanta Falcons content, including Terrin's special teams story up on the site. So our pregame show will be going live on YouTube at noon on Sunday before the 1 p.m. kickoff against the Dallas Cowboys. But the next time we see you, we'll be recapping that game bright and early Monday morning. So until then, everybody, take care.